CrossGen sound check right before our very, very informative and detailed
Guide.
not walkthrough.
No,
Um,
like it's just
what was it that AJ said before?
uh,
Hand holding.
This is going to be the CrossGen handholding session.
handhold. Yeah,
And
or just
our listeners, if they're going to play this game, are going to need it because we're going to be talking about Elden Ring.
yeah. You're gonna go through the 8 stages of hell and depression and death
Denial.
and denial and destruction and stuff. Yes.
So get your tissue box.
Yep.
Because you're going to be crying a lot.
Yep. We're gonna make this game less. It's gonna be soul crushing, but at least a tad bit less soul crushing than it was originally.
Soul crushing. You know, do you mean soul crushing? I mean, no, you mean soul crushing. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was,
He said soul crushing. He meant soul crushing.
Yeah.
are these souls that are being crushed, are they dark?
Ooh,
That
I
was
like
good. That was good. That was good.
I'll give it to him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CrossGen podcast. I am your host, Walt, and I'm joined by my two kids, AJ and Eli. Guys, say hi.
Goodbye.
Hello.
So, for our audience, the reason why they sound a little down and depressed is that we've been playing a little game called Elden Ring. Elden Ring, a Dark Souls game
Dark Souls.
from FromSoftware.
Type game. Dark Souls type game. It's
Well, it's
not part of the
basically-
series.
No,
but it's
yeah.
basically like Dark Souls.
So
Played by the same people.
they've done Dark Souls, they've done Sekiro,
Sekiro.
some of the hardest games like out there,
For
right?
sure.
It's like FromSoftware has like the corner, the market
Yeah.
on soul crushing. It's funny because it's Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
Soul crushing games that are actually fun to play,
They're fun,
but soul crushing,
but frustrating and soul crushing.
but fun to play,
But still fun to play.
but soul crushing.
But soul crushing.
Yes,
And entertaining.
yes.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. Before we do that, though, I would like to invite everybody who's listening to the podcast to please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to.
CrossGen. Yes.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes.
Come on, help me out here.
Yes.
You know, the CrossGen podcast, your favorite little podcast that talks about a little bit about everything. But lately, we've been talking about stuff like this.
Yeah.
Elden Ring just came out this past Friday, February 25th. It's available on all the major platforms. It's on PC, it's on Xbox, it's on PlayStation, not on Switch. I don't think the Switch can handle it right yet.
No.
Right?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
I doubt
But
it.
it's only on Xbox, PS4, and obviously in the new series.
Yeah, on Windows, Microsoft Windows.
Oh, Windows too.
As I mentioned before, the developer is FromSoftware,
Yeah.
published by Bandai Namco.
They're always releasing good stuff. Like, they have the new Avatar game coming up, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Written, and the only reason why I'm going to put the writers on this is because it's very interesting who's on here. The first one is excuse me if I'm not saying this right. Hidetaka Maizaki, okay? But the other writer, and like I said, not that, the first writer is uninteresting, but the second writer, George R.R. Martin.
Yes.
That should string
Who's
that should strike a chord in some people because he's the writer of the Game of Thrones franchise.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You mentioned that.
Eternal sadness.
Yes,
Why?
that's true.
A little thing I like to call the Red Wedding, and I'll just leave it there.
I don't know what that is.
Well, and also the last season of the HBO series.
Okay, well, if you want to, I'm talking about like actual
it
story. I'm not
bad?
talking about the bad ending.
Well, with Game of Thrones, not that it was bad, but Game of Thrones is a weird little project because the books originally far outpaced the series, but the series caught up very quickly to the point where the last season was drawing off of nothing that was written because he hadn't finished the books yet. So a lot of people weren't too crazy about the ending, and I suspect that a lot of the reason is that there was no pre-existing material, to kind of compare it to. You know what I'm saying? So the books are either they're coming out or he's released one or two of them, right?
For Elden Ring?
No,
for Game of Thrones.
we're talking about Game of Thrones, dude.
I
Come
thought
on,
that
catch up.
ended a while ago.
The show did.
Yeah.
No,
The
the books, I
books.
mean. I thought the books ended.
So did the books come out?
I mean, at least that's what I thought. Hold on.
Because
I want
I
to double check this now.
I know when the last season came out, there was still, I believe, 2 books that needed to be completed.
Let's see.
But anyway.
Yeah,
The
anyway.
game
So,
of
like I
books
said, this thing
finished.
came out on February 25th. 2 rave reviews. I mean, the amount of 10 out of 10s that this game has garnered is amazing.
It's well deserved too.
Uh-oh.
I take that back. I'm sorry. The 7th and final book in the series will be A Dream of Spring, which by all accounts Martin has not even begun yet.
Right.
Oh.
At the time, he was 2 books behind, and I think he had just finished shortly after the series ended the second to last book, but he still got to finish the very, very last one. So there you go. So anyway, getting back to Elden Ring, 10 out of 10. It is currently right now, and I know we're only getting into March at this point by the time this thing releases. The highest rated video game of 2022.
Of course.
Eli, you probably said it best. This game is probably going to be the best game of 2022, right?
Yeah.
Seems like it's going to be really hard to top it, right?
Yeah. That's for sure.
So let's talk about what Elden Ring is supposed to be about. So it takes place in this fictional land, this realm called the Lands Between, and it's sometime after the destruction of the Elden Ring, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like the shards are scattered all over the place. It kind of feels like a Dragon Ball type of thing. The Dragon Balls are all over the place, right?
Yeah, sort
Mm.
of.
And so your character is a character called one of the Tarnished, right? They're exiles from the lands between, who lost the ring's grace, and they're kind of summoned back to the lands between after the shattering.
Yeah.
And so I guess your character, as the Tarnished, your task to find all these shards, restore the Elden Ring, and become eventually the Elden Lord. There's a lot of Elden going on here, right? So that's the story of it. Let's actually talk about how the game works, because
Well, there is one thing I would like to interject.
okay,
The pieces aren't just scattered, they are held by demigods.
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's a little piece that you got from actually playing the game, right?
Well, that was also in the introductory sequence, but yeah.
It's playing the game. Yes.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a little bit about how this game works, because the reason why we're doing this podcast is this is not a standard game. This is not like, playing Call of Duty or Forza Horizon,
Nope.
where you just jump in and boom, you're doing stuff. There's a lot of thought that goes behind this. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, first of all, it is a Dark Souls game,
Yeah.
right?
Super difficult.
It's by those guys. So they have kind of a way of doing things with their video games, right? The other piece is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the stuff is kind of inspired from Dungeons and Dragons, right? D&D.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can see that.
that's
That's
basically
not
Dark Souls.
inaccurate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of how you deal with your RPG character. So there is a player creator, right? And so let's talk first about the classes, okay? Because I think classes are important, especially if you're going to start the game. And then once we get into the player classes, then we can talk about how, the D&D aspect kind of falls into place, right? Because then based on the classes, you'll be leveling up certain things based on who you are, right? So
Here we go.
let's see. Here we go, because it's going to be very, very interesting.
There are a lot of classes
Yes, there are.
and a lot to choose
And
and a
among
lot
the
to not
first
choose.
one, well,
The
it
first
depends
one,
on your style.
but the first one, like they're the top three, obviously. Like the
We're
basic
just gonna
ones.
lay them out right now, though.
Yeah, the basic ones.
So the very first one up that we're going to look at is the hero. I have a few simple questions I'd like to ask the audience. Do you like running headfirst into battle? Do you like smashing people over the head with a giant hammer? Do you
God.
like tanking all kinds of hits and laughing as you stomp on the bones of your enemies and crush them? Then the hero is for you, because they're basically the barbarian of this game.
Oh, interesting. That's a
Yeah.
good way of thinking about it.
I'm going to do that for each and every single one of these.
Okay.
Mm.
But you know what? For people who are into D&D, I think this is a really good way of kind of putting the two together. Hero is your basic melee tank character, right? Um, he he's got he starts the game, and this is the interesting thing about Dark Souls games, at least with Elden Ring is concerned. You don't start at level 1 with some of these classes. You start at very certain levels. So, you come with, these stats that are already kind of pre-built into the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing about it is that you're not married to it, right? You can kind of take a class and then kind of shape him into your own, right? So,
Yeah.
like, for example, a guy like Hero, he's already got high strength, he's got endurance, and he's got vigor. And we're going to talk about those stats later, right? But you can kind of meld him into something else. Like he'll always have that stuff, but maybe you throw in a little arcane magic. Maybe you throw some faith incantations along there with it, right? But this is kind of like straight up barbarian, like you said, where he's just going to kick your what all over the map, as far as melee is concerned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, did that hold any interest for you as a player?
That's not my play style, so to speak. I know it's yours.
Yes, it is.
But there's another class which we'll go on later down the line, which obviously is the one you
Ugh.
chose. But
Ugh. It's garbage. It's
All right.
literal garbage.
Well, let's talk about the next class. The
wow,
next
okay.
class is the bandit. Eli, you want to explain a little bit about that guy?
The bandit is like basically your average archer dude. He's like good at like stealth, I believe, and like he's good with daggers, bow and arrows, obviously.
He's,
And yeah.
oh, sorry. He's basically like the rogue or the ranger.
yeah, that sort of thing. So that's basically him. He like has some, obviously, considering he's like stealthy, he has some high dexterity, and however, he's like one of like the, I guess you could say, the outsider of of all these classes, because he doesn't really have
Anything?
high anything except for like dexterity, but he's still good. He's still definitely a good class to choose in terms of stealth and speed. So yeah,
He also has a little arcane in there too.
yeah, that's true.
All right. The next class is the vagabond, and that's basically
A knight.
a knight.
A knight.
I mean, literally, he looks like a knight. He is a knight. So with the vagabond, you're going to come with heavy armor.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have the sword. You're going to have the shield. Basically, anything that you've seen kind of in, Knights of the Round Table, Camelot. those are the that's
Shrek.
Shrek. That's an interesting choice, but
Gosh.
okay. He's a guy that's probably the tankiest, right?
For
Of all
sure.
the starting guys because of
Yeah.
the heavy armor. So he's gonna be able to take a lot of damage. Um, and maybe that's a guy that if you're into melee, maybe as a starting player for Elden Ring, and if you're not too familiar with the Souls type of games, maybe that's a character that a newbie to the franchise might want to get into, because you know what, the fact that he's tanky, the fact that he's got the heavy armor and stuff like that, it'll kind of overcome any mistakes that you do at the very beginning of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have that guy. Now let's get on to the next, and I think this is kind of a favorite of yours. That's the, well, I'm gonna say it badly, right? The astrologer, the astrologer, right?
Yes.
The astrologer.
The
I love saying it that way.
wizard.
That's a favorite of you guys, I think, especially for AJ, right?
It's
This
garbage.
man. No. Don't listen to this
Nah,
salty
it's garbage.
child.
It's garbage.
This man, the astrologer, man or woman, sorry. He is an offensive beast. Long range, very good with magic, obviously. It's like if you like magic, if you like staying at a distance, if you like basically just demoralizing your enemies from a
God.
distance, this is your guy.
Okay. But he's not only that too, and that's the beauty of the astrologer, the astrologer, right?
Astrology.
Because his weapons, when you start out with this character, is the staff, which you use for casting purposes, right? But he also has a short sword, which
Mhm.
kind of makes him a little proficient when it comes to up close and personal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
somewhat.
just in case you run out of, I guess, mana. Is
I
that the
think it's
magic?
FP.
FP, yeah.
FP.
All right, well, FP mana, you get the gist. Your
Yeah.
magic meter.
hmm
Yeah.
So he's kind of like a pretty decently balanced character, right? In a sense, because you have, I think he's more of a spellcaster, right? But at the same time, if you get caught up in a melee battle, you're not gonna fall short. At least he has the sword to kind of help him out, right?
The only
That's
thing,
more as like a last resort. There are much more balanced characters in terms of actually balancing magic use and,
Yeah.
Melee.
melee use, but we'll get into those later.
The only thing about astrologer is that, compared to the rest, he doesn't take hits as well. At least from what I've seen. So he can die somewhat easily, but this is a game where you could like level up your character in certain areas, so
Mhm.
it doesn't really matter. You can
And you
balance
can
it out.
dodge.
You can also dodge. That helps.
That's true.
Dodge!
Yeah,
All right.
you need to do that.
Let's get into the next class, the warrior.
The warrior. The warrior is basically it's like, I guess, a dual wielding dude. I think he has like 2 scimitars or something like that.
Mhm.
That's right.
And he has some very high dexterity, and he has really good damage on people. So I mean, he's pretty good.
He just sucks at defense.
Defense is absolutely horrible with this dude, but I mean, you could level it up and he'll get there. He also, I think he has like a bow too.
Mhm.
So I mean, he's pretty balanced in terms of offense and defense. It's just destruction. It's horrible.
So this is one of the characters that, like I said before, you can kind of make him your own. Maybe you don't at the very beginning if that's your thing, and you want to get a guy with a high, offensive rating. Maybe you spend your runes, as they're called in the game, and level up his defensive prowess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, you have flexibility, and all of these classes are really starting points for how you want to play the game, right?
We have the goat next.
Yes, the goat,
The goat.
which he's interesting the way he looks, right?
Yeah.
This is also one of those balancing classes.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the prisoner. The
Mhm.
prisoner, complete with that that wooden board around his neck. What is it, like the stocks that they
That's
used to
That's
use?
Prophet.
That's
Oh, no, that's the
actually the
Prophet?
prophet.
He's
This is the guy
dude-
with the metal.
yeah, the metal
yeah.
face.
Yeah, okay. He's got the
Super cool.
mass
He's the
metal.
man in the iron mask.
There you
Yes,
go.
the goats.
He's actually pretty good because he's kind of like one of these guys that can kind of melee and cast at the same time,
Yeah.
right? So and you get a staff along with him, and along with a thing called the Stock.
Stock.
Right?
Sounds weird.
So you have the ability, kind of like the astrologer,
the
astrologer, right? To kind of like, pick and choose how you want to fight any particular battles, right?
Except the melee is up to par with this one.
Yeah.
So again, another class that if you're new to Elden Ring and want somebody that's kind of balanced, he's probably one of your best bets in terms of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he does offer you the ability to kind of be flexible on how you're approaching some of the enemies that you'll meet in the lands between.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that I think Eli is probably a little bit. So we're gonna skip you, AJ, for this one. We'll come back to you because this is Eli's guy. That's the Confessor.
The Confessor.
Talk a little bit about the Confessor class.
He's like pretty good. He has a decent attack stats. His health is pretty low, I will admit. But if you're looking for somebody who's like good with close up melee, this is definitely one of the choices that should go through your head. He does wield magic, but not the astrologer's magic. It's the faith. Yes, faith.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he could he has like a two, basically like he uses his two fingers to like do.
He does
magic spells.
incantations,
Yeah,
as opposed to
spells.
Yeah.
So this dude is basically goated, far better than the astrologer, all the way.
Yeah, sure.
No, but he has a shield, so that's actually pretty good. As a starting thing.
Yeah. So he is probably a guy that may be a little bit more difficult to get into because even though he does have all those other things, he doesn't take a lot of hits well.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that if you do choose the Confessor class as you go through the game, you need to be mindful, and maybe you want to bump up some of those hit points and some of those defensive minded stat categories.
Yeah. But he's a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
So that's good.
All right. We're going to get to the guy that I mistook the prisoner for, the guy that has the stocks around his neck, and that is the Prophet. And for that, we're going to go to AJ because that seems like an AJ thing.
Yeah.
Prophet of truth.
There you go. See?
Prophet of truth.
I knew you would come around to that. Booyah!
So this guy, before we were talking about the Confessor, and he wielded faith and melee. Well, this guy is not so much the melee, but more so the faith. And he has a pretty exceptional, obviously faith and mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of integral when it comes to doing the incantations.
Mm-hmm.
Strength, okay. Vigor, no.
Yeah.
Not very good vigor. So let me put it to you this way. Do you like summoning giant dragon heads out of nowhere to gobble up your enemies and cause them to be routed? Do you like burning your enemies to death and reveling in their pain and suffering? Or maybe you're a nice guy and you'll freeze them to stop the burning, but by then it's too late. Then maybe you'd like to play as the Prophet of Truth.
Yes.
There you go. I've heard this class referred to as the glass cannon.
Oh God.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a class that's super powerful, but very, very delicate. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to choose this class, this is one where you're going to have to really kind of strategize out your battles with certain enemies, because while you may be OP in terms of your offensive capabilities,
defense is just
yeah, 1 or 2 hits and you're done. So you better learn how to use that dodge button very well.
oh god.
You know. All right, we're almost done because we have 2 more classes left, but of course,
The best one, probably, at
Th-
least in my opinion.
well, this is my class, right?
Yeah.
And I love this class, and that's the samurai class. And of course, knowing me the way everybody knows me, I'm always loving the samurai class.
Yeah.
The samurai class is it's a melee type character, but does have long range because of the fact that it has a longbow, and you can attach regular arrows plus fire arrows very, very early on in the game. It uses a very, very powerful katana, and apparently there is another katana that's even more powerful in the game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's at the expense of magic and faith, right?
Yeah.
Spells and faith, arcane and faith. So it's it's a good starting point if you like combat. Okay, and it gives you again different ways to approach fights, right? Because if there's like a ton of enemies that you're facing, you have the longbow to kind of pick them off, right?
Yeah.
And then you can come in with the katana and pick off the stragglers, right? Or if you're feeling your bones at that time, right? You can go in with the katana, swinging and killing off people. So you have a lot of different ways to do it. The only thing is that magic is not going to be focused heavily with this character. So if that's the type of gameplay that you like, for me at least, the samurai is a fantastic character to use in the lands between.
Yeah.
The last character, and I saved him for last because he is probably the guy that if you're this is a guy that you do not want to pick if this is the first time you're ever playing a Souls game, right? But if you're an experienced Souls game guy or gal, this is a character that you can mold into whatever you want, because this character starts at level 1 and all of his stats are across the board the same. So you can mold him into anything you want. You can make him a magic user. You can make him into a faith guy, a melee guy. And the class that we're talking about, I love the name, is the Wretch.
Yes,
Right?
such a goated name.
So why don't you guys talk about the Wretch?
We kind of went over the name and stuff already, but I still have to ask these questions. This is how I do.
Wretch.
Do you like suffering?
Oh God.
Do you like starting off with a simple wooden club in a land where the dead walk around?
Oh God.
Do you like being called maidenless by the first person
Oh,
you meet
God.
outside
That
of
was-
the
oh my God.
outside of the what's it?
No
Outside of the
maidens?
first area.
The tutorial?
Yes.
When you first walk into, what is it, Limegrave?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, do you, or rather are you, prepared to be called a wretch?
Oh God.
Then you will enjoy being the wretch.
Oh man.
He's a guy that starts level 10 on every
Every
single
single.
category and stuff. So, like I said, the fact that he walks around badoinky doink everybody with the club in the head, he's probably not the guy that if you want to start the game up and running. But if you want to really truly build your own character, this is the guy you want to use, right?
Yeah.
So those are the classes that exist in Elden Ring. Let's talk a little bit about how Elden Ring uses the D&D style to kind of differentiate all these classes, right? Because some of the things that are on here are familiar with D&D players, right?
Yes, in a sense.
So we have a total of, what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 different stat categories that a character can have, right? So why don't we go through them just so that people who aren't aware of how that works, what exactly each of these categories does. So let's start out with vigor.
Vigor. Do you
Oh God.
like hit points? Do you like to increase your survivability against enemy attacks? Do you like falling off of cliffs and surviving?
Oh God.
Do you like barely scraping by environmental hazards? Then you do want to invest in vigor.
That's vigor. That's vigor.
So in the sense, vigor is just hit points.
Hit points.
It increases your health, right? The next thing is mind. No mind, empty your mind, mind.
Yes, mind. Basically, like mind is like your FP and your sorcery and special abilities and incantations and yeah, that's it.
So
Yeah,
increase your mind increases your FP, which is something that you use for arcane and faith attacks.
Yes, it's your mana bar.
So
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So for your mystic based characters, right? I guess you would say a mind is pretty important,
For sure.
right? Because it increases your ability to use your attacks, right? Let's talk about endurance. And I think endurance is pretty self explanatory. Endurance gives you the ability to attack, to dodge, to run, to move. And there is an endurance meter in the game. And so it's mindful because, and very important, right? Because if you're in the middle of fighting a boss, and you will fight bosses, and you will fight very hard bosses, not only are you worrying about dodging and stuff like that, but you need endurance to dodge. So if you overuse that meter, you're gonna die very, very quickly. So it's important to really focus on your endurance meter and use runes appropriately to kind of level that up, right?
Yeah.
The next thing is strength, and I think that again is pretty obvious, right, AJ?
Do you
Oh God. Here we go again.
like wielding heavy weapons? Do you like increasing the damage done by said weapons? And do you like smashing in the heads of your enemies with an obscenely large colossus two-handed axe?
Yes.
Then this is the skill tree skill set that you want to invest in.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically.
Now, it's important to note that there are certain weapons in the game that you have to have a certain strength level to utilize.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm going to tell a very interesting story about that once we get into gameplay.
All right. Dexterity, E. What's that all about?
Literally
Gotta go fast, gotta go
the
fast.
name of it, speed and attack speed and actually surprisingly damage apparently. I didn't know that. So I guess the things that you should really invest in are vigor, endurance, and dexterity. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. That's it, basically.
The next stat is intelligence, and that's pretty easy to kind of figure out. It's improving the damage of your sorcery spells and any weapons that have intelligence scaling, and it also helps you learn more powerful sorcery spells. So again, for your faith or arcane based characters, pretty important, right? But for your faith and arcane based characters, we have the last two sets of stats, and guess what that's called? Faith and arcane.
Faith and arcane.
So
Do you
Oh god.
do you like hoping you can squeeze in one last attack at the very last second? Do you like summoning thousands of those dragon heads I mentioned earlier? Do you? I'm not going to lie, I fumbled on that one.
Oh man.
Okay.
But the premise is
Do
if
you?
you like any of these things, invest in faith.
Yes.
And
Yes.
arcane is for your magic spells, so
Basically.
the better your arcane, the better your magic, right?
Basically.
So the game starts, it gives you a very quick kind of synopsis of what's going on, and it throws you right into a player creator mode, right? The player creator mode is actually pretty robust because you can kind of change any aspect of your character in terms of face, and stuff. So you can really make some very, very interesting characters. And it has a ton of different things. So no two characters really are going to be the same. You start out with either a muscular build or a more slender build. And then from there, you just kind of move forward. You can change eyelashes, eyes, nose, mouth, chin, the standard stuff, but it gets very, very detailed. Voices and stuff. And one very, very interesting thing that it does when you're doing the player creator is it gives you a keepsake that you start
Yes.
the game with. And that's very, very important, right? Because depending on the type of character do you have, or depending on the type of gameplay that you want to engage in, getting the right keepsake might help you immensely in the very, very beginning of the game, right? So you have a whole bunch of different ones. I'm just going to read them off real quick. There's the Crimson Amber Medallion, and that gives you increased HP right away. You have the Lands Between rune, and that one is really not the greatest rune to have, especially if you're starting, but it gives you a bunch of runes to start the game with so you can spend and kind of like, change your character. The one that I think is pretty interesting, and we've seen a bunch of videos, and I think everybody kind of is the consensus that you want to start out with this, is the Golden Seed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Because the Golden Seed gives you the flasks which are necessary to do healing. So you start out with more flasks,
or magic
Right.
flasks. Yeah.
Right. So you start out with more flasks than you would,
Yeah.
which in turn means that you can heal yourself with, I think originally you start out with three.
Yeah. You
Three
start out with
flasks?
2,
Two?
I think, or no, 3. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But it
Numbers.
increases the amount of flasks, which then gives you more healing properties or magic properties. So a lot of people, especially online and on YouTube, really, really kind of gravitate toward the Golden Seed. Fanged Imp Ashes gives you the ability to use ashes, right? Very start. And what do you use ashes for? To summon
Familiars.
Yeah, things like that.
Like you can summon wolves, a corrupted wolf,
Sorcerer.
or whatever.
A
Sorcerers.
jellyfish.
Jellyfish. He's not joking.
Yes.
You can summon a jellyfish.
It's amazing.
It's too much.
It's goated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cracked pot used to craft items.
No,
I don't
it's
know.
not
I don't
worth
know
it.
if that's something great.
Do not do that.
The stone sword key, that you can. It's a key that you can use to get into blocked areas.
Decent.
Again,
Meh, not really,
not
though.
the greatest thing if you're starting out, but
Yeah.
can be useful, right?
Sometimes.
You have the bewitching branch, which gives you 5 items to kind of charm your enemies. Again,
Meh.
maybe not the kind of thing you
Yeah.
want to start out with.
Doesn't sound all that great.
A boiled prawn.
What the hell?
This is the
Basically a
thing
shrimp.
when I made my vagabond. This is what I chose.
Oh, and you
So it gives
wasted
you, yeah.
it.
It's not that it's because read the description.
It's 5 items that can help you boost your defense against physical attacks.
Yes, and that seemed good at the time.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The problem is they
It's
don't
one
last long.
Yeah,
time
So
use.
and it's not the biggest boost that I noticed even then.
right. So this is not a permanent addition to your defenses. It's a very temporary one if you're fighting a tough battle or a tough boss.
Yeah.
The last one is Shabiri's, whatever that is. Whoa.
Whoa.
And
Whoa.
whoa.
Whoa. Whoa.
Whoa.
So this is a talisman that can attract enemies to you.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
no,
cool.
thank you.
Well,
So cool.
I think what you
Oh my
would
God.
use that for is if you're going into battle in co-op and you want, your buddy is not as strong as you,
Oh,
you know.
Ruin Farm.
Yeah, the focus of the attack, you'll bring it to yourself while the other guy can kind of like,
Yeah.
help out. So
Or you can start off as a wretch and immediately punish yourself.
by hitting yourself in the
Yes.
head with the club.
No, by spawning more enemies.
Yeah.
He's a wretch. That's what he
Yeah.
would do, right?
God.
Wretch the goat.
So I think
the
everybody kind of assumes that the golden seed is
goat
probably
is
the best, right?
Or the maximum HP one.
Yeah, I mean those are two ways to go.
Yeah.
So that being said, I mean those are kind of the things that you start out with, and I think those are very very important, to know before you start out the game, because it really, picking the right class based on your playing style is super important in this game, especially a game like this, which is punishing from the outset. There
Yeah.
is no difficulty level. It's one note the entire way. So the game doesn't adjust to your level. You have to adjust to the game's
game.
level. So picking a class is super super important. So don't just pick a class because he looks cool, because if that's the case, you'll find yourself dying often in Elden Ring. You're
Very
going to find
frequent.
yourself dying anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna be
But
frequent.
yeah, but if you pick the wrong class, you're totally screwed.
Yeah.
That being said, you guys have put in a crap ton of amount of time. I think like what, over 10 hours at least at this point.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about the game.
Why don't you start with your experience first?
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Before I started the game, I did like a whole crap ton of research, which
Which is
really,
smart.
yeah, it is. Do it, please, for the sake of for your own mental sake, I guess. Yes. Do it. Basically, like, there's these things called golden runes, which like give you XP that helps you level up and like buy stuff. You also find like yeah.
Who'd you pick as a class though?
Oh, yeah, the Confessor.
Okay.
The Confessor, who is really good, but doesn't have a good defense. So, yeah, I just got a bunch of golden runes and smithing stones, which boosted my sword all the way up to +4 off the bat, which shouldn't technically happen as an early game starter. Um, and basically from there, like, I just beat a bunch of bosses.
Mini bosses.
Mini bosses, because see, here's the thing about it. There are these bosses that you find in locations like maybe like a dragon, or like I think the first one I fought was like these twins that were like inside a super dark cave, and like a cat that you had a lot of trouble with.
Hey, don't go telling my story for me.
Yeah, but the cat, right? So basically, like, there were definitely a lot of mini bosses. There's one main boss who I was just fighting like not an hour ago. Just completely, it's just devastating. So I mean, I just killed a bunch of bosses,
Mini
mini
bosses.
bosses, and leveled up, and got a whole ton of golden seeds. I have seven. I have 7 elixirs,
Flasks.
right? 7 flasks right now.
Technically 8,
8.
but
How?
because remember it's 7. You allocate it. So you
Oh,
have 7 health, but you always have 1
one mana.
FP. Yeah,
I
1
mean,
mana.
FP. And basically it's +4 for each one, so it's like really boosted.
Mhm.
I also have like a wondrous physic, which basically buffs my stats. And I just went around killing people, and now I'm up to the first main boss.
What do you think about the design of the game in terms of the open world and some of the enemies that you encounter?
The game is just gorgeous, bro. Like the views and stuff, it's like so awesome until a dragon somehow uh completely interjects your moment where you're just looking at things. Dragon, yeah. So it's like a very um graphically, I guess,
What are you playing
good
on?
game. Oh, PS4. So yeah, it's very good. It's
Okay.
very good.
What about you, AJ? What's your experience with Elden Ring right now?
Allow me to tell you a story.
AJ's on a roll today, man.
Oh,
So, once upon a time in the great beyond, there was a being called Diablo Pablo, aka that's my username for certain games. Diablo Pablo commissioned 2 individuals to go forth and fight for him. One, who I will only name as LAC,
what the
and
hell?
2, it's not abbreviating, but is that what it is? Abbreviating?
Initials?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the initials. LAC, and the second one, which I will
Oh
name,
god. Oh god.
Dio Heisenberg.
Oh god. It's so stupid.
He
Oh,
just
man.
truly blended JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with
With
Breaking Bad.
Why?
Okay.
What possessed you to do something?
I was
as
originally
childlike
going to
as
call
that?
him Diavolo Heisenberg because that flows better.
Why is that
But because
better?
of the name limit, I had to do
Oh my
Dio.
god. It's disgusting. Oh my
So
god.
my man JAC is not an astrologer, he's a vagabond.
Okay.
Mm.
First thing he did
Oh,
when he
you
got
of
out
course,
of when he
we're
got
gonna
out
talk about
of
that.
the main area where you go through the tutorial on how to play the game, which is very insightful, by the way. Don't skip it, please don't.
No.
Yeah.
See, the thing about JAC is he's a little crazy.
Oh
Like
god.
if someone looks at him wrong, he doesn't like the way they dress, or just say something that sets him off, he will fight them. He will throw hands. So when this dude with basically a rose bush for a sword says that he's maidenless, you best believe JAC threw down. He obviously
Oh my
died the
God.
first thousands of times that he tried to fight him. It's a learning process.
Oh my god.
So then he goes to the church of what's the name of the church outside of the place you first emerged from?
Church of LA.
The Church of LA. There, we call the merchant there Santa Claus because
Oh
that's
my
his
God.
getup.
He does kind of, yeah, he's got that jolly look to him. with,
JAC
you know,
didn't like that. Remember, I said if you
gosh.
dress wrong, he will go after you.
Oh,
It's
God.
funny too because
He's actually pretty important.
Yeah.
You should really. So, people, if you're listening and looking to get into
Oh my
Elden Ring,
gosh.
please don't take his advice.
Yes.
don't take JAC's advice.
JC's.
DL Heisenberg is a lot better as a starter. He's
Oh,
more
God.
cool, calculating. He's a lot like Dio himself.
A lot more mentally right in the head, you would say. Yes.
Much
His
more strategic too. Yes.
GAC is completely mental.
Yes.
Gosh.
Killing all your friends. That's stupid.
It's funny too
What's wrong
because
with him?
that witch, the demigoddess,
Yeah.
you walk up to her and she's like on the edge over there, right?
Yeah.
When JAC started throwing down with Santa Claus, she
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
"Oh, you know what? I
my
think
goodness.
maybe it's not a now. Now's not a good
Oh
time."
my God.
She
Jesus
left.
Christ. It's crazy.
After that, he started to contain himself a little bit. And, you did the normal grinding, did some map exploring, went to a place that looked like it was fresh out of Hellraiser. It was really, really terrifying. Do you know what the name of that place is? With those huge crows
What?
that, really are annoying, and those
Starts with
big
the C.
dogs.
It's like near Liarnia Lakes, but it starts with the C. I'll find out right now.
Basically there. And I find my first graveyard, and graveyards are very good because they give you
Yes.
golden seeds, and that helps you level up faster, a lot faster. It's actually how I caught up to him in basically a day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did that. Then I went and I'm fast tracking through a lot of grinding also, because I'm trying to sum up this story because I still have to get to Heisenberg, which will be short because I only started him like an hour ago. The next thing I do is, because we switch off every now and again between me and Eli, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Eli goes and fights this guy called the Tibia Mariner.
Super
And
easy.
he's funny too, because the story of the Flying Dutchman?
Mm-hmm.
He's basically the Flying Dutchman in a lake.
Basically.
Interesting. Okay.
I still haven't
Like
found
he's
the
like
location's name, by the way.
a grim. He's like he's basically, he looks like the Grim Reaper, but he's like Karen, where he's like paddling a boat.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's purple. He's
Yeah.
hard to miss.
Yeah.
He looked super easy to kill.
Oh, of course, for sure.
Yeah, it's if you want to kind of build up your confidence a little, and also kind of get a feel of what the mini bosses, one of the easier mini bosses, feel
Super
like,
easy mini bosses.
then fight the Tibia Mariner.
Yes.
A rated experience.
Super easy.
Oh, but before that, I'm sorry. Wait, just really quick. So remember, I was in the Bloodland, right?
Yeah, I forgot it. I don't know what its name is.
Okay, Bloodlands is where I get introduced to the Round Table, and the
Yeah.
Round Table is a very important place if you want to level up your character.
Super duper important.
Because there you get access to a blacksmith dude.
Yeah.
You get access to the witches, who are like a super upscale shop owner, merchant type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Spirit
just get to hang out. Oh, that too.
Yeah, Spirit Tuner, which is good for leveling up summoning stuff.
You just get to hang out with the Golden Seed Bros.
Yeah, basically.
One of which says, "Oh, those who walk in death are like so hard to fight. You shouldn't do it, man.
Especially
If
the
you
Mariner.
ever come across a mariner, you should run for your life."
Yes.
Meanwhile, that's like the first boss we fought and made him look like a clown.
Yeah.
So we actually, after I go killing the Tibia Mariner, we go back to him and he's like, "Oh, they're so hard to fight. Oh, wait, you have a death root? Oh, maybe you're pretty solid. I'm going to set you up with an introduction to, was it the Beastmaster?
The Beastmaster.
The Beastmaster. And he's kind of like your first, not boss as in, you have to fight him, but boss as in this guy set you up with a job.
You're employed.
Yes.
Yes. You're employed.
And basically what this guy wants from you is those death roots that you got from the Mariner. He wants you to go and find more so that you can feed him.
Yeah.
And then he
apparently.
gives you stuff in return.
Okay.
So that's a cool thing you should definitely look into if you want to be employed in Elden
Stuff.
Ring.
Yes. Yes.
So there's going to be a lot of characters that you might meet in the lands between that you probably shouldn't kill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't.
Because they do very specific things and help you out in very specific ways, right?
Yes.
So, but it's interesting that Elden Ring does give you the ability to kill these characters.
Yeah,
which
like
is not something that you normally see, right?
like, I'll bring a good frame of reference. Skyrim is one of those games where you can kill a lot of people, but you can't kill the clearly important people.
Right.
But at least as far as I'm seeing so far, you can kill next to anyone in Elden Ring.
And you get
next to anyone.
You get rewarded for it too.
Anybody's on the table.
Now, I haven't tried killing the Beastmaster because I actually like him.
What the hell? Jesus Christ.
So everybody else that you killed, you didn't like, right? Even though they were
All
going to
right,
help
not
you.
that I like, that JAC didn't
gosh.
like.
But to be fair, they did diss him like a majority of the time.
Yeah, like what's your first response
They're
to being called maidenless?
They're
like
disrespectful. No,
I don't know if you
JAC
kill
is a
him
very
outright, but
JAC is a very temperamental guy. He
Obviously.
has a little Pablo in
Yeah.
him. Come on.
Pablo.
Now, what's his name? Heisenberg is a different character. He's still starting out. He made friends, not enemies.
With the white mask.
Well, he didn't even speak to
You didn't
him.
even
He
talk to
just
him?
he just saw him and was like, clown. Moving on.
Oh, God.
Not worth his time.
Oh man.
And then just him. It's been grinding, getting golden seeds, but he's definitely a much more stable person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
So similar to what I asked Eli, what do you think about the game itself in terms of, the lands between and the character designs of some of these enemies and bosses that you're meeting?
I did forget one thing, and it ties into your question. There is a mini boss that I fought as JAC, probably the bane of his existence.
Oh God.
It was a cat man.
Yeah. That's it.
Or, sorry, it's not a cat man. It's just sometimes when you fight this boss, he stands upright and it looks really awkward and he kind of looks like a man.
It's like a robot cat or something like that.
What do you call those like those little Chinese toys where they're the kind of the monkey that does
those
that?
type of things?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
It's kind of like that, except it kind of goes. It's like this, then it goes like
Just
this,
stands up.
and and its tail is on fire, and it breathes fire.
So
And it has
only in a video game podcast can you say that with a straight face.
and not to mention it wields a sword like this, like it's like the king on a card, like when you play a deck of cards, it has a sword like that, and he goes like.
yeah, it's
So
super weird.
basically,
It's a very choreographed type of boss.
it's a cat toy that stands up like Mewtwo with fire that breathes fire, has a fire tail, and bonks you over the head with a
giant stone
sword.
Did I also mention it has the face like a devil?
Okay. Moving on. I've heard enough. Moving on.
God.
I gotta find this guy. I gotta
See,
see what this guy looks like.
I hated him, but in retrospect, that was probably one of the funnest boss fights I've had in a long time.
Yes.
I'm not even gonna lie.
So let's talk about the boss fights. I'm not going to talk about my experience because basically all I've done is create a character. You guys have played the crap out of the game, and I have not been able to touch the console because of it. So, but let's talk about the boss battles because that is super important in a Soulsborne type game. This type of thing. There are enemies that you will find littered all over the map, right?
Yeah.
Enemies that surprisingly you don't have to fight. Like you could literally run right past them. And that's the cool thing about this type of game is that your level of engagement is based on what you want to do. And if you feel that you're not strong enough to fight a certain character, you could just run away. And there are ways that you can actually skip bosses in the game, which is very interesting. But let's talk about the bosses because the bosses are really the guys that make up a Soulsborne's game. Now, I don't think you've gotten there yet, but
I've only done mini bosses.
right. Eli, however, has fought the first boss, which is Margit the
the
Fell, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting out with a character that is level what, 23, I think.
Yeah, level 23, level 24, something like that.
Okay. How is the experience of fighting Margit? I watched
Oh,
you, so I
God.
know, but explain to the audience what it's like to fight a boss in Elden Ring.
It's so stressful, but it's so entertaining. I mean, like, you get to it's like all about dodging and like reaction time with his
Just
attacks.
dodge.
Yeah, just dodge
Dodge.
everything. I can't say like to guard. Oh, and apparently there's parrying, which I had no idea was an actual thing there. So it's just really just dodging, trying not to fall off the freaking cliff because it's so stupid. And they basically have no boundaries. So
Well, why would you have boundaries in waking life? Like Elden Ring is also kind of realistic.
yeah, but literally all he does is hit you once and then you fall right off the cliff, and it's so annoying.
So
As
you're
it should be.
when you're fighting Margit, it's basically a kind of like a mountain road that leads up to the castle, right?
Yeah,
And he's standing right in front of the castle. So the mountain road on both sides, it's just a precipice falling into an abyss,
yeah.
right? So not only do you have to worry about avoiding and dodging this guy's attack, which he comes at you in a various number of ways, right?
Yeah.
You also have to be kind of aware of where you are while you're fighting, because like it's happened to you a couple of times, you dodge right into falling off the cliff.
Yeah, so it's really frustrating, but like I said, it's fun because you get to learn and study his attacks, see when to dodge, what attack he's gonna do next, and when you have your opening. So it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, like even with the mini boss, that
Yeah.
Catman I was telling you about, it was a lot of okay, it's about to happen, dodge. Okay, he's gonna do the fire thing, back up a lot. He's gonna do his spinny move. Okay, double dodge. It's a lot of learning the bosses that you're fighting.
Yeah.
And the mini bosses aren't slouches either, for the most part.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
attesting
God.
to right now. You know how many times I died fighting Catman? Like he has
Bro.
a pretty dope name, but I can't bring myself to say it because I still harbor a little bit of JC's pettiness
God.
towards the mini boss.
Oh God.
So many bosses again can be found strewn all over the map. I recall that there was that one time that you were trying to walk across the bridge, and the bridge was kind of blocked by a huge dragon,
Yeah, there was that.
which you tried to sneak behind, and he promptly swiped you with his tail and killed you. And then you had the audacity to go back to try and get the runes that you dropped, right? Luckily, you were able to. Well, no, you died a couple of times, right?
No, only
No,
died the
died
once.
So, but you were able to regain the ruins, but ran out of there like a bat out of hell because you weren't about to fight him, right? But that's the kind of experience that you'll have with Elden Ring, right?
Ooh, but don't forget, there's that one pond you walk by, and then all of a sudden, out
Oh,
of
yeah.
nowhere, a dragon comes and rolls up like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
And that's what makes it interesting, right? These random things kind of happen and stuff. Two things that I want to talk about before we move on, because I do want to let the listeners know that there are ways to get some really powerful weapons very early on the game. But before we do, we got to talk about the two things. First of all, one of the things that's going to help you immensely is the fact that you can summon a horse, right?
Yes.
So how do you get that? How does that work?
So basically, what you got to do is this: once you complete the tutorial and leave the first area, actually, wait. You know what? Scratch that. There are two first areas because there's the very first area where you're literally thrown to the wolves, where you're like
Right.
meant to die.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry if you don't get past that guy. Then there's the second starting area, which you can get through, and you get to the main what's the name of the mainland?
Limgrave.
Limgrave. There, what you're gonna want to do is avoid this really tall, really annoying guy named the Tree Knight. Avoid him at all costs. You can't take him. I'm telling you that now.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a path in a forest. Follow it. You will eventually come to a clearing in the forest, and below you'll see like a little small outpost camp outside of like a large stone gate. You want to go there first. Go to the middle of it. Get the map. That's going to be immensely important if you want to start discovering the map. Once you do that, there's going to be a path going. I don't want to say it's east, but no, actually, it's east, right?
What?
The road going towards the bridge.
Yeah, that's east.
Yeah, so you want to head east, right? And along the road, once you get far enough from the guys after you've raided their camp for like a brief hot minute, there's gonna be a, what do you call those stopping points? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on a lot of things.
Lost Grace.
Lost Grace.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. There's gonna be a Lost Grace near a bunch of it was like by a bushes and a tree. It was small. You can't miss it because the game kind of says there's a Lost Grace nearby. You should probably discover it.
Yeah.
You discover it, you rest. Then that will unlock the sequence with Melina, who's basically going to be your maiden, which is kind of what the guy was roasting you about earlier.
Mhm.
But now you have a maiden, which is basically like your Yoda in this game. Once you get through the whole, yes, so I'm going to be your maiden now. This is our business proposition. I help you, you help me, blah, blah, blah. Here's what's going to help you on your quest. There's this guy named Torrent. He's a spectral horse. Take him.
Yes.
He's chosen you.
Yes.
And then by the end of that encounter, you now have a spectral horse, which makes walking around billions of times easier.
And it also helps with your fighting.
Immensely.
Especially with the knight dude. I forgot his name.
Oh, what?
That dude is great.
You just reminded me.
I just killed him.
Oh, yeah. So there's that too. But remember that Colossus I fought.
Oh, the Colossus dude, yeah.
It was very instrumental in doing that too, because those dudes are mad slow. They deal a lot of damage. But if you stay like close to his feet, you can take him.
Yeah, for sure.
And this also goes back to the thing you were talking about certain weapons are locked because of strength.
Mm-hmm.
When I beat this guy, I saw that he dropped what was called the Colossal Battle Axe?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's basically this really cool, super swanky axe that he was practically using in battle.
It's a halberd. Actually.
Halberd, okay, yeah. The Colossal Halberd.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not a hero, so when, to my disappointment, I went to go and equip it, it was locked by strength. It had a strength requirement. It was pretty disappointing, but again, that's why you got to really map out your stats and, just kind of be mindful of that. And as a matter of fact, the Colossal Halberd is one of those weapons that we would recommend you if you're going to be a hero, because that's one of those strength weapons that are actually pretty dope to have.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what that reminded me of? The Tree Sentinel.
When you're ready for him, go
Yo.
to him. When that guy's
he's-
terrible.
Okay.
But it's funny because the halberd that you have is going to be dwarfed by the halberd that he drops, and he's one of the weapons.
Really?
Yeah, he's one of the weapons that we're going to talk about a little bit later once we get past this segment, in terms of weapons that you can find that are super powerful, but you can find early on in the game.
It's crazy where the location that they put him at. It's just insane. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Okay. So super important to get the spectral horse, because the spectral horse not only will help you get around in the world of the lands between, but he also adds another element in terms of fighting that'll help a lot, especially with some of these big bosses. The second thing is the thing that we talked about, and a little bit, it was kind of frustrating a little bit because we weren't able to figure it out, and we actually had to go online to do that. And that is the fact that Elden Ring has a cooperative multiplayer element to it, but it's not as simple as you would think, right? And like I said, we had to go in to an online tutorial on how to figure out how to do this, because unfortunately Elden Ring, like a lot of things that Elden Ring doesn't do, it doesn't hold your hand in trying to figure out how to do things, right?
You're lucky you have us.
Right. So, and in terms of the story, it doesn't point you in this direction.
Well, it does.
But
It
not.
does.
It does.
On the map, it'll show you
Yeah.
like the golden
That's true.
rays,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that they actually tell you where you can go. But
Yeah.
Okay.
again, A, you can choose if you want to or not, or
skip
B, you can skip it, or C, you can grind until you feel you're ready
Okay.
to follow that path. But there is a
Mhm.
path.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but it doesn't show you how to do the cooperative multiplayer.
Not out right now.
Because it's not built for it. At least I think so, in my opinion.
It is, but they do it in a very, very strange way.
Mm.
And so, first of all, let's explain to our audience how to do the cooperative multiplayer, because it's not just a matter of sending an invite to your friend and boom, he's there. You actually have to build something.
Mhm.
You have to craft something. I'm sorry. Let me use the proper terms.
So first things first, Erdle?
Erdleaf.
Erdleaf. There you go. I was about to say Erdleaf.
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 That's not. Why does that remind me of like a Pokemon? Oh, Squirtle. That's why it reminds me of that.
Well, there's also Nuzleaf, but whatever.
Oh, Nuzleaf, yeah.
Mm.
So you need at least 2 Erdleafs or Erdleafs. Sorry.
Oh my God.
No. You need 2 of those. Then remember Santa Claus, who I told you about early on, that JAC killed, which
at the Church of Ellie.
LA. Yeah. That guy has the crafting
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
the crafting
crafting kit.
and basically you buy that off him for like 300 golden runes
Yeah, just runes.
and or runes, sorry, whatever.
Yeah.
And there you go. You got your crafting thing, and then you use the crafting thing to make the
Why does it have such a complicated name?
yeah, like some of the
Festering-
names here are like super wonky, but
Bloody
Fingers.
finger,
Yeah,
festering,
the
blah, blah, blah.
festering fingers or something to that effect. Basically, it'll be the only thing that pops up because you only have those 2 Earth leaves. Make that, and then once you've made that, you use that to basically draw on the floor and invite your friends.
Yeah.
And here's the thing though, if you leave it open, anyone can join. So what you got to do is you got to set a code, and then you tell your friend the code. They input the code, or no, yeah, they input the code, right?
Right.
They input the code, and then vamos.
The great thing is that and it's cool, but it's weird at the same time. Whatever you do in the world stays in the world, right?
Mhm.
So for you, and that's the weird way of how Elden Ring kind of does this, because people can leave hints all over the map, hints that, oh, you got to be careful with this. Oh,
Yeah.
you got to don't jump off here. And then sometimes they put other things which really don't.
Kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Praise
kinda
the
stupid.
ring.
Yeah,
Praise the
exactly.
Try
ring,
gesturing. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
But it's cool because whatever you put down, other people in a different console, in a different area, in a different place will see it. And so that's kind of how Elden Ring manages cooperative multiplayer, because you have to drop the summon stone, right? And then, like you said, you got to give the other person the password if you want to make it a private session. and then that other player on that different console, whether it be within the house or someplace else, has to go to that place and put in and then just kind of jump in on it. Now, the interesting thing is that you're taken out, in a sense, right, into like a pocket realm.
Well, no, what it is that
Sort of.
you're
And I say pocket realm just,
for the loading screen.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So,
you're basically in the same place, but it kind of kicks you out
to a different world.
Even though it's the same world, but now both of you are in it, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's not the same world. It's a multiverse.
It's a multiverse. Yeah.
So basically what these runes do is allow you to traverse the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
So Eli came to my Earth, or my Elden Ring, or my land in between.
Yeah.
And basically, yeah, so I put the runes down, he comes to mine. If he put the runes down in his, I would go to his.
But it
Right.
didn't work.
Yeah,
weird.
it was just a weird
It's
thing.
a wonky way of doing it. And it's weird because, in a sense, it's not really truly cooperative multiplayer, because if the host of the game dies, everybody gets kicked out.
Yeah.
And I think the purpose of it really is not really to play the game together, but it's to get past certain things together.
Mhm.
So I can see a scenario where Eli is up against a really tough boss. By himself, he won't be able to do it. But if he were to summon AJ into the game, together cooperatively, they can probably take down the boss together.
But yeah.
Another thing worth mentioning. So about the multiplayer, Elden Ring is CrossGen. Well, how funny is that? We're CrossGen.
Hey.
CrossGen. We're CrossGen.
Unofficial official plug of unofficiality.
Yes.
But it is not cross-platform. So basically what this means, I have an Xbox One X. I can play with Eli, who in the living room is on an Xbox One. But you cannot do an Xbox One X or an Xbox One and a PS5 or Windows, whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a PS4 Pro in the living room. Using that Elden Ring copy, we can't play with him, who's using an Xbox One X. So
that's how that works.
Another thing that I think you guys found frustrating with the cooperative multiplayer is that a lot of the things that you can do in your normal game, you can't do in that game, that piece, right?
Here's why I think that is, though. Because there's another element of the game that's kind of very scary. So there's these things called blood fingers.
Oh, no.
And basically, so you know how you can travel the multiverse and be invited? Well, there's a way you can invade other multiverses. And so that's what the blood finger does. And I think so that people have an easier time fighting other people, they disable the steed. So when you're invading, you can't just hop on your horse and like zoom off.
Yeah.
It gives the invading person a chance to actually get you.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
It is.
That hasn't happened to you guys.
It happened to me twice.
Really?
And I ran for my life. I was like, rolling, like
So
rolling.
What does that look like?
Oh God, it's horrible. It's like bloodied, corrupted people. I've fought them like 6 times, and they're just absolutely horrible. There's like one, the one in the that place in the round table hold. There's one there that wields a scythe and a wand, and he jumps up at you and literally, bro, he just whoops your butt, bro. It's insane, bro. He kills you.
That's not good.
Yeah. So
all right, so cooperative multiplayer is not really up to snuff. Probably the one fault of Elden Ring
but
so far, right?
That's why I say it's built for only soloing, because it's not. Look, you can go into it, but then you'll be immediately kicked out afterwards. So fighting tough bosses won't really work because if it's a tough boss, you're gonna get killed multiple times.
Well, like I said, unless you alone, your level is not enough, but combined with somebody else, maybe they can help. I don't know. Like I said,
No.
it just seems like a very wonky addition to Elden Ring. But you know what? It has precedence because they kind of do this with other games also. So that's that. We're gonna wrap up this Elden Ring
Elden Ring.
not walkthrough, but
Hand holding
hand-holding
session.
yeah, hand-holding session with probably the coolest part of this is finding the best weapons in the game.
Early
Okay.
game.
So there's a lot of different weapons that can be used. I think weapons aren't really constricted to class in this game, which is kind of cool, right? In a sense.
Again,
Yeah,
it
it
kind of
is.
It
is,
is.
but remember, I killed that really huge Colossus dude. I didn't have the strength requirement to do it.
But you
Yeah.
could conceivably
Yes,
use it. You
conceivably,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So the weapons really are kind of across the class. It's just you have to make a concerted effort to be able to use it based on whatever stats you're using. So for example, in your case, you weren't strong enough to use it, but that didn't prevent you from gaining strength and using it later on down the line, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, and some of them are really for certain classes. Um, there's the twin blade.
I have the talisman for that. So basically I could buff it. I don't know who I got that from.
So it's a dual bladed weapon, and it's basically like a staff sword because um, you can use it with two hands or one depending on the build that you have, right?
Oh, I need that.
And that one you'll find by the Dragon Burnt Ruins near the dragon that lands in the lake. I think you've seen that, right?
Yes.
So it's not too far from where you start the game. The good thing is that you don't have to fight the dragon to get it.
Really?
You just
Really?
need to go underground into the ruins and follow that path, and the twin blade will be there.
Oh, I saw that. But the only thing is, yeah, I think you have to go twice because the first time I went there was a trap that sent me all the way to the probably like one of the end game places. So I was like, that was not good.
Okay.
But yeah.
So there's that. There's another thing called Reduvia. It's the daggers.
Dagger of the
Best daggers
gods.
in the game early on. And it's pretty easy to get as well. All you got to do is, once you get torrent, you just got to go to the ravine in the center of the Limgrave area, and it's pretty there. Now you're gonna have to fight a guy for that. His name is Bloody Finger Najurus.
Oh God.
You know,
it's another person.
He's kind of hard to beat, but you'll get an NPC that'll help you. So once he dies, then you get this dagger. So pretty cool. There's another thing. You have to kill Patches to get his spear +7. Okay. And I would say he's a merchant. So
What?
this is kind of one of the things that AJ's JAC might be suited for because if you kill this merchant, he drops this spear and he gives you some leather armor also. But that's entirely up to you. You lose a merchant, but you gain a spear.
Oh, shoot, I think I've met him. Yeah, I have.
Well, he's in the Murkwater cave.
Oh, yeah, I haven't met
And he's
him.
right next to Bloody Finger. So,
oh God,
if you do that, you get a spear. There's the Great Epi. And that is a sword that has great strength and dexterity. You'll find that south of Limgrave in a chest near an enemy camp on top of a hill. You probably have to kill some people, but they're not the toughest, and definitely a really good weapon to get. There's also the flail, which is a pretty powerful early game
I have that.
weapon. Did you get it?
I think so. Yeah, I do.
You can find the flail at the Gatefront Ruins site of Grace. And that's pretty early on in the game. There's a couple of soldiers around there, but you could probably take care of them. But you got to go by the carriage, and there's like a chest in the back of the carriage, and that's where you'll find it. You know, I like the name of this one, the Axe of Godric.
Sounds crazy.
So, not really too early in the game, but if your character is high on strength and dexterity, definitely a weapon you want to get, because it's literally one of the best games that you can find in Elden Ring. But in order to get it, you gotta beat Godric the Grafted.
Yeah.
So,
he's crazy strong.
Yeah, he's pretty difficult. But once you get it, you'll pretty much be OP for the rest of the game. This is for me, finding the Uchigatana, and that's obviously specifically built for the samurai. But again, like I said, anybody can weapon. Now, the samurai starts with a pretty powerful katana to begin with, and I would suggest for people who have the samurai, don't change the katana that you have, because generally you're not going to find a better sword, especially early on with this character. But if you can get this weapon, it'll be awesome. It's a little hard to find, because you're going to have to go to the death touched catacombs, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that easy. But you'll find a body that has the Uchigatana over there. And so it's a little out of the way, but if you have the samurai build, you should definitely go get it. Next up is the hand ballista. It's not a very, very powerful, but it's a very unique weapon. And strength players might like the range that it offers. That one, you go to the Bridge of Sacrifice and look for the Forest Lookout Tower. You got to climb the tower, and you'll find the chest there. So, the next one is one of the great swords in the game. I love the name. Bloodhound's Fang.
What the hell? Sounds crazy.
It's pretty cool, right? You got to head over to the Forlorn Hound Evergaol, and it's a little hard to find because there's a portal in the ground, and you got to fight the Bloodhound Knight Darwill.
You fought him.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
you could have had the great sword.
Yeah, but he's so fast, and he does so much damage.
Doesn't he have like frostbite too? He gives you like ice stuff.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's the guy that shoots out the icy.
The ice.
Oh, I guess just because I evaded, that's why I haven't got hit with the effect.
Yeah. If you had beaten him, you would have gotten that great sword. That great sword is immensely powerful. You need 18 strength and 17 dexterity to wield it. But the benefits of getting that great sword, especially, I think you use a great sword. You use a sword.
I use a sword and shield.
Okay, this is a weapon you might want to go out and see if you can get. So
okay.
Speaking of which, the Golden Halberd is the guy that you have to fight a tree knight for.
Oh god. Yes. We tried fighting him in co-op. It was terrible.
I'm gonna kill him next. He's next on my list.
All right. The last two weapons that you probably want to try and get out, there's the Zweihander. This is it's a weapon, it's a sword that is not the greatest, but early on you can use it. You got to go to the Merchant's Shack southwest of Limgrade, and there all you got to do is just buy it for 3,000 runes. So
Wow.
yeah, pretty
That's decent.
simple to get.
I'm gonna get that.
Wow. I could get that myself.
Yeah, I mean it's a colossal sword. Nothing great, but like I said, better than anything that you'll have early on in the game. And strength based, so make sure that you got your strength stats buffed up, in order to use it.
What's the requirement?
I'm
doesn't
not
say.
sure, but they're definitely something that you want to take a look at. The last one is the demi-human queen staff.
This would be mine.
Yes, and I was that's kind of why I left it toward the end, because I knew this was something that you could probably use. You're going to have to level your character in order to use it.
Oof.
Okay,
but
that's fine.
And it's not the easiest staff to find in the game. You got to go north to the Weeping Peninsula. There is a massive creature guarding it along with his minions. You have to kill the creature to get the staff. You might have to fight the minions to get the staff, but that all depends on whether you can take down the boss or not. But this is a weapon that casters absolutely need to get. And it's not a game-changing staff, but the fact that staffs are kind of hard to find within Elden Ring, if you have a chance to get this one, definitely worth it. So those are the best weapons, at least early on in the game. And the cool thing about Elden Ring is that even though you find these best weapons, every weapon is upgradable. So the the allure of finding these weapons is that you get them already upgraded to a certain point. So it gives you a chance, if you can get it early on in the game, to kind of bypass the grinding that you need to do with your weapons that you currently have to get it to that point. You know what I'm saying? So you'll get an instant boost if you find these weapons in the game. So that's why I say, if you have a chance and if you're willing to die quite a bit to get it, and some of them are kind of easy, but some of them are ridiculously hard to get, right? It'll help you with your gameplay going forward, because now you don't have to grind to kind of upgrade your weapons. You already got a pretty good weapon to start with. So there you go.
Okay.
So that's Elden Ring for you guys. Any last words on Elden Ring?
I gotta get a twin blade now. I gotta get a twin blade for sure. Sheesh.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna try and get that Swyhander as JAC.
Jace.
Oh,
Oh god.
He's gonna kill Patch just for the spear
unstable.
+7.
He's unstable.
Yeah, that's another
Long-winded.
thing. He did not win against those first two dudes at first, but once he got up there, he came back for his vengeance.
Oh,
and
God.
did he get it after he got that super sick rapier.
Okay.
Went, yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
All right. So last question I have for you guys. A lot of sites out there have rated this game 10 out of 10. Do you think it merits that?
I think that you can never, this is just me personally, you can never give something 10 out of 10. There's always something you can do better. But I'm very willing to give it a 9.9999999. You get the idea.
I was actually worried about you more
Yeah.
than anything, because I know you're a huge Skyrim fan, and I thought that you would be comparing this game to Skyrim in a sense.
I can't though, because it's a completely different play style.
Well, now obviously that we played it, it's a little different. But I thought initially your concern would be like, oh, I've already played Skyrim. Why do I need to play this?
That was my outlook at first. Then I played it.
So there you go. What about you, Ian?
80 out of 10.
Really? Wow. You're the one that's played it the most. You're the one that's kind of hyped it up the most.
This
What
game
happened?
is lit. This game, what?
80 out of 10? I thought it would be higher than that.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I could go a little bit higher than that, but I'm just saying, like, it's definitely in its own league.
Well, I mean, he did say 80 out of 10.
Yeah, not 8 out of 10.
Oh, 80.
80.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking
10
80 out
times
of
8.
100. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I take that back.
Yeah, 80
wow.
out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's definitely probably one of my favorite games right now. It's just lit. It's just lit. I hate the frustrating parts, but it's what makes the game. And by God, it's just amazing. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give a rating because all I've done is create a character.
Mhm.
So I'm going to abstain, but from what I've seen you guys and how that's going, I'm excited to keep playing it. So,
Yes.
hopefully eventually I'll get to where you guys are. That may take me some time for me, but anyway, that's it. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for listening in. I hope that you've gotten some pretty good tips in terms of playing Elden Ring. And I fully suggest that if you want to play a fantastic game, just know that it's a little bit difficult. And when I say a little bit difficult, it's a lot difficult.
Yeah, very.
But I believe that it'll be definitely worth your time if you find a way to master it. Because some of those boss fights are amazing. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus in terms of those type of fights where it's a hard fight to have, but afterwards you feel so goated, to use a phrase that you use, right? There's that element of satisfaction that that dude was hard, but I took him down, So anyway, like I said, definitely go check out Elden Ring by FromSoftware. It's out available now for all the Xbox and PlayStation platforms and available on your PC for Microsoft Windows. On that note, I am Walt.
This is perhaps AJ. It could be Diablo Pablo. It could be JAC, or it could even be the man himself, Dio Heisenberg. Who knows?
Dio Heisenberg. This is Eli Joss Guy. You remember that? Joss Guy.
That's a real throwback there. Wow.
Okay, Eli though, and may our twin blades. I had it prepped. May our twin blades cross again.
Okay.
That's lit, right?
Okay.
That worked.
Right. Yes.
That worked. I got
the
it.
The first flawless.
I got it.
Wow.
You did it.
It took Elden Ring to do it.
Yeah, Elden Ring. Elden Ring.
Elden.
All right. Later, people.